Our buildings may be skyscrapers, but when it comes to construction, the real high-rises can be found in the animal kingdom. We're counting down the top 10 most extreme animal architects and comparing them with human attempts to build their way into the record books. Discover that you'll need more than concrete and steel to take building to the most extreme. Earth is a planet of extremes. Extreme places and extreme animals. But some animals are more extreme than others. Join us as we count down to find the most unusual and the most extraordinary on the most extreme. At number 10 in the countdown are animals with a problem. Frogs need to keep their eggs moist and safe from hungry eyes. Some frogs take their chances hiding their eggs on the forest floor. But there's one frog that has a passion for building. For African gray tree frogs, mating is a messy business. That's because these frogs are building as they breed. The female secretes a foamy fluid from her skin when she releases her eggs for the males to fertilize. Then everybody kicks in to beat their babies' homes into shape. This extreme team is number 10 in the countdown because these bubbles set like concrete to provide a foam home against all kinds of weather. Our earliest ancestors also had a passion for building. Once they got the hang of fire, they developed other tools that let them move out of natural shelters and into man-made caves. Safe inside our modern homes, we've managed to almost completely seal ourselves away from nature. Our buildings provide the warmth, safety, and shelter we need to survive even the most extreme environments, both on and off the planet. State-of-the-art building technology has taken us out of this world. But just like the astronauts, the time the gray tree frog spends hanging in space is only temporary. After a few weeks, the bubble house starts to dissolve, and the tadpoles discover that the real estate business is all about location, location, location. Tree frogs always build their foam homes over water, so their babies can drop into the pond where they swim away to start their new life. There's one big difference separating us from other builders in the animal kingdom. We use tools to help us. But take a close look at the great apes, and you'll discover that when it comes to building, gorillas, orangutans, and chimps are definitely not chumps. This orang has a problem. She's found a bee's nest, but the honey is out of reach of even her long fingers. The solution? Build a honey extraction tool. Very few animals have the ability to make even this simple tool. But the ape's intelligence isn't the reason that orangs are number 9 in the countdown. For this is the face of a master builder. And the thing orangs build best are beds. At the end of each day, high in the canopy, orangs retire to a new tree to weave a new bed. Because they're constantly moving through the forest, orangs really do have to make their bed every day. That's up to 15,000 beds in a lifetime. Luckily for us, these great apes seem content being the best bed builders in the world. For just imagine how our lives would change if apes started building with the right tools.
They build the cities, make the laws, the gods, and control the guns that hunt a race of lowly, terrified humans, planet of the apes, beyond your wildest dreams.
Fortunately, world domination also appears to be beyond these apes' wildest dreams, at least for the moment. Our first two contenders built up an impressive reputation. But as we spin through the countdown, animals turn over a new leaf. As the search for the world's best builder continues on The Most Extreme. What makes a luxury home? It's a matter of combining quality construction with beautiful interior design. That's why coming in at number 8 in the countdown is the best builder of luxury love shacks in the world. Meet the male Bowerbird. Back in 1872, the first naturalist to see the incredible constructions of this extreme builder thought they must be built by humans. Surely no bird could weave such a structure and decorate it with such artistic precision. But it's amazing what a male will do for a mate. There are 19 species of bowerbirds in Australia and New Guinea, and they all have different ways of impressing the girls with their home handyman skills. This is a satin bowerbird nicknamed Jock. He's famous for his efforts to create the best bower in the district. Jock knows his girlfriends only have one favorite color, so he travels far and wide to collect absolutely anything, so long as it's blue. But even Jock is no match for the Vogelkop bowerbird, who builds a hut that's nearly 2 meters wide and over 1 meter high. He also tends pretty flowers in a garden and replaces them as soon as they fade. Males also collect pretty trinkets like beetle wing covers, feathers, fungi, and even one naturalist's pair of brightly colored socks. But even bowerbirds can't compete with the eccentric creations of some human males. How would you like to live in a house made of lots of empty bottles? Lots of empty bottles of embalming fluid. This house in Red Deer, Alberta is the dream home of retired undertaker David Brown. He'd always wanted to build his own house, and he decided that the square-shaped embalming bottles would be the ideal construction material. By the time it was finished, he'd cemented into the walls an incredible 600,000 bottles. Meanwhile, in Houston, Texas, there's a house made out of a very different building material. John Milkovich was a man who liked beer. He liked beer a lot. Every day for 18 years, he drained a six-pack and incorporated the cans into his house. With the enthusiastic help of friends and neighbors, John emptied a staggering 39,000 cans. But with a little help from its friends, this bird builds the most extreme nest on the planet. On the plains of Africa, sociable weaver birds create an enormous nest high in a tree. Weighing more than a ton, this apartment block can house more than 400 birds. One of these incredible nests has been in use for more than 100 years, which is more than can be said for our first attempts at apartment living 2,000 years ago. Once, all roads really did lead to Rome, so city planners had to find a way to house all the people flocking to the city. Luckily, the Romans had just discovered concrete, so they were able to copy the weaver birds and build multi-storied apartments. Unfortunately, they hadn't discovered reinforcing, which limited the height they could build safely. Today, thanks to reinforced concrete and steel technology, we can build superstructures more than 20 times taller than the apartments of ancient Rome. And buildings don't get much taller than the Petronas Towers in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Each tower is supported by an outer ring of 16 concrete columns that push the building more than 400 meters into the sky. It took 7,000 people 5 years to complete the Petronas Towers. But could any of them compete with the sociable weaver bird and make a house of hay that would last for 100 years? If you think that making cities of straw, building beds of branches, or whipping up homes of foam is impressive, coming up is an engineer that builds for the kill. That's next on the most extreme. Some of the most delicate structures in nature can also be the deadliest. That's why coming in at number 7 in the countdown is the spider. All spiders build with silk they produce from glands in their bottom. Silk starts as a liquid but quickly hardens into a thread that can be spun into that deadly web. By building their web across busy airspace, spiders can filter food from the sky. But a web of spider silk is no ordinary fishing net. That's because you need a very special building material to capture high-speed insects. To stop bugs from bouncing off, spiders cover their web with glue. So why doesn't the spider get caught in its own web? Take a close look at the silk strands, and you'll see distinct blobs of glue. By picking its way between the blobs, the spider can move freely across the web. And webs have to be strong. This tropical orb weaving spider makes the biggest and strongest web on the planet. A single web can be nearly 2 meters across. Silk lines can run 9 meters up into the trees and are strong enough to catch small birds. Spider silk is an amazing building material. Weight for weight, spider silk is twice as elastic as nylon and 5 times stronger than steel. No wonder spiders can build structures to rival those of any human engineer. Imagine how different our constructions would be if we could use a material that could hold 4,000 times its own weight and be anchored with nothing but glue. The average garden spider makes enough silk in its lifetime to stretch 3 times across the Brooklyn Bridge. But spider webs are also environmentally friendly. How many human engineers could recycle their creations by eating them? Spiders are most famous for spinning silk into their deadly webs. But they've also found other uses for this versatile silk, as Jane Stevens from the St. Louis Zoo explains.
Not all spiders weave webs to catch food. This is a Peruvian pinktoe. She makes a wonderful tent out of silk. She lives in the rainforest, but she can live in many other habitats. That silk tent gives her lots of humidity, and no matter where she's living, if it gets too dry, she can retreat to her silken tent to get the humidity that she needs.
From the moment they're born, spiders make use of silk. Their eggs are wrapped in a silk case, which can become a nourishing first meal. Then, depending on the kind of spider, silk can be used to build homes, wrap up food, and even to travel. For some babies get high on silk. Small spiders can build themselves a parachute. A single thread of silk is light enough to be picked up by the wind and strong enough to carry the spiderling. So it's up, up, and away, although sometimes cruising at 9,000 meters can be dangerous. America's had huge cities for thousands of years. It's just that not all its citizens drive cars. This fat little rodent doesn't look like your average city slicker, but it's number 6 in the countdown because it builds the best little house on the prairie. These are prairie dogs, and each one of those mounds is the top of a house. And in a prairie dog town, there are a lot of houses, packed as tightly as any suburb. It's just that to see prairie dog buildings at their best, you have to head underground. That's because prairie dogs take tunneling to the extreme. Combine all the tunnels of all the dogs living under the prairie, and you end up with an underground metropolis. Especially when you consider how many dogs once used to build their homes in America. One prairie dog town in Texas was estimated to have a population of 400 million dogs. Some humans also spend a lot of time underground. But unlike prairie dogs, they use a massive machine to build their tunnels for them. This is one of the most powerful hard rock boring machines ever built. It can grind its way through more than 18 meters of solid rock each day. It weighs over 900 tons and needs a crew of 25 just to keep it running. It really is an extreme machine. Yet prairie dogs manage to build their vast tunnels with nothing but their bare hands. Digging a burrow complete with bedrooms, bathrooms, and nurseries means the prairie dog is left with an awful lot of dirt back on the surface. But even this can be built into a useful mound. In these flat grasslands, flooding can be a real problem, unless you build a protective dike of dirt. And this raised mound also makes a useful lookout point, for there are many dangers on the prairie. When a prairie dog dives into its burrow, nothing short of a giant vacuum cleaner would get them out again. And in Utah, that's just what they've got. This souped-up sewage truck sucks up prairie dogs. It may not be the most dignified way to be relocated, but at least the converted sewage machine is on suck and not blow. The prairie dog may have laid the foundations for our countdown to find the most extreme builder on the planet. But still to come is an animal whose house is a work of art. And a mobile home that's under way too much pressure. That's next on the most extreme. It's winter in West Virginia, and Kathy Stout is on the trail of number 5 in our countdown of extreme builders. Take a close look at the leaves in this stream, and you'll find that our builder has been at work. But these circular holes mean that our animal is going to be hard to see. The missing pieces of leaf are now the home of the caddisfly. Caddisfly larvae are number 5 in the countdown because they can build a house out of anything. These extreme builders are mostly harmless vegetarians, so they need a way of avoiding hungry eyes. That's why they'll build a home that's camouflaged to look like just another part of the stream bed. And if the construction material is too big, their powerful jaws will soon cut it into the right shape. Then, they use their spit as glue. Modified salivary glands make a kind of silk to bind the pieces together. Caddisflies will stick anything together to make their mobile homes. Sometimes caddisflies are such masters of disguise that their houses can fool other hungry herbivores. But caddisflies can't fool Kathy Stout. Kathy is in the business of changing caddisflies from builders to jewelers.
We've constructed our own simulated stream. We've been able to find beautiful types of stones to give the caddisflies to work with. We've got lapis, gold nuggets, abalone shell, regular seashells. I just look at the colors of the stones that I like and I say, let's crush that one or crush this one. And then we try to get it to simulate the same size stones they would normally pick up in the stream.
It's just that the stones you find in the stream are a little drab compared to these works of art. With a little skill, caddisfly cases become truly unique beads that can be worked into some of nature's finest jewelry.
There's no caddisfly harmed in the process of making this jewelry. We raise them until they emerge as an adult, and after they've emerged, we let our little guys go.
That's because even the most beautiful construction in the countdown is no use to an adult caddisfly. Once they leave the water, adults have only one thing on their mind. It isn't building, it isn't eating, it's sex. Some caddisflies only live for a few days, so the race is on to find a mate and start making the next generation of extreme jewelers. It's a high-pressure business trying to build a home deep underwater. That's because for every 30 meters you descend, another 20 kilograms of force presses in against you. But one animal makes it look easy. At number 4 in the countdown is the Nautilus. This strange mollusk normally spends the day 300 meters below the waves. Haul some deep-sea fish to the surface, and the change in pressure could be lethal. But this is a journey the Nautilus makes every night. It moves up to hunt in shallow waters, chasing down its prey using a form of jet propulsion, just like its cousin, the squid. But when the sun rises, the Nautilus sinks. The Nautilus can survive these extreme pressure changes thanks to its incredible shell. This structure is a truly stunning piece of design, according to Dr. Bruce Carlson from Hawaii's Waikiki Aquarium.
When the chambered nautilus hatches, it's a miniature of the adult, has a very tiny shell like this, and obviously it has to grow as the animal increases in size. Well, to do that, let's look at the inside of the nautilus shell. The animal actually occupies this part of the shell, and as it grows, it creates a new chamber here, a septum, and that forms a new chamber. And as it continues to grow, it'll move forward again and form yet a new chamber. until by the time it's an adult it'll have about 30 chambers. Now at the same time, it's also adding shell at the lip here, so that it's increasing in this pattern throughout its life.
The Nautilus is number 4 in the countdown because simply by secreting calcium carbonate, it can build a shell that lets it travel across the vast depths of the ocean. So it's no wonder that the 19th century science fiction writer Jules Verne looked to this mollusk for inspiration. He named his fantastic deep-sea submersible the Nautilus in his classic adventure 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea.
The Nautilus probably has its closest relationship in our world to the submarine. Like the submarine, as the Nautilus animal moves deeper and deeper, the shell is actually able to withstand the external pressure, just like a submarine has to withstand all that water pressure. But there is a maximum depth. And for the Nautilus, when they get much below about 1,500 feet, then the shell will actually implode. But when you think about it, they can go from the surface to 1,500 feet with a shell that's only about 1 millimeter in thickness. It's a very remarkable animal in that regard.
To show just how remarkable, imagine what would happen to a human head at such extreme depth. This head's actually polystyrene because they couldn't find a volunteer. Nobody could hold their breath for the length of time it takes a submersible to descend to the depths of the Nautilus. The immense pressure squeezes the polystyrene until it's less than half its original size. Although Jules Verne wrote about his incredible submarine back in 1870, it took well into the next century for us to build machines that could dive to the depths of the real Nautilus. Modern science fiction writers still dream of building homes beneath the waves, but for the moment, this alien world belongs to the Nautilus. So far, the countdown's been constructed of submarine shells, beautiful bugs, and digging dogs. But still to come is the creator of the ultimate home sweet home. That's next on the most extreme. Coming in at number 3 in the countdown is a true believer in flower power. The bee is an extreme engineer that harvests flowers for raw materials. For bees turn nectar and pollen into wax, and wax is an extraordinary building material. A large nest like this can weigh over 100 kilograms and house more than 50,000 bees. And it's built of nothing but wax. Inside the nest are the rows of hexagonal cells that Charles Darwin described as a masterpiece of engineering. The cells are used to store food, which is why we call it honeycomb. A typical colony stores away 18 kilograms of honey to survive the winter. But the cells of wax are also the nursery for the thousands of grubs that are raised each year. A typical nest is made from over a kilogram of beeswax. And to find out where all this wax comes from, you need to take a close look at a bee's butt. For between the segments of the abdomen are glands that produce the wax that the bees use to build. But it's not easy. The bees only produce tiny flakes of wax, no bigger than a pinhead. It takes 500,000 flakes to make 0.5 kilo of beeswax. And every one of those flakes has to be carefully molded into the walls of the hexagonal cells. All 100,000 of them. Thanks to the honey stored in all those cells, bees are definitely our favorite builders. We even help them by providing artificial tree trunks for them to live in. Today, we build wooden hives with movable frames. But in the past, beekeepers would use conical baskets woven from straw or cane. Strangely enough, in the 1960s, these structures came back into fashion. People went to a lot of trouble to get a beehive on their head. But even this magnificent creation isn't the most extreme beehive on the planet.
Oh, yes.
To be a beekeeper in the Himalayas, you have to have a head for heights. For these bees build their nests in such extreme positions that Nepalese honey hunters are pushed right to the edge. If you think these builders make life uncomfortable, just wait till you meet the next contender, who's also got a reputation for being damn difficult. When it comes to building big, nothing beats a dam. And in nature, when it comes to dams, nothing builds better than number 2 in our countdown. The beaver has been building dams for 5 million years. With nothing but teeth and paws, it can create a 300-meter-long structure sturdy enough to support a family car. Beavers build because they love water. They get protection by placing their home in the middle of their artificial lake. The lodge is like a castle surrounded by a moat, and the moat is also the beaver's garden, full of its favorite food. Only one animal has a more dramatic impact on its environment, and we don't build with our teeth. Since the first large-scale dam was built in Egypt 5,000 years ago, human engineers have been busy little beavers, constantly devising new ways of taming the forces of raging rivers. And the biggest challenge of them all will be in China, where people aim to dam the 3rd largest river in the world. Here on the Yangtze River, the Three Gorges Dam will become the world's biggest hydroelectric dam. But here, unlike the beaver, more than 1 million people will lose their homes when these valleys are flooded. But then, the beaver is also capable of a little destruction. No tree is safe from this rodent's terrible teeth. It can chew through a log the size of a rolling pin in only 15 seconds. With teeth as sharp as chisels, several hundred trees and saplings can be felled in the course of a single winter by a family of these furry chainsaws. But cutting down trees is the easy part. If we wanted to build a dam like a beaver, we'd have to develop some other special skills, as animal educator David Clevin explains.
Beavers, you could call them the tugboats of the water world because of their incredible swimming ability. They can pull very large logs through the water, and they actually have 4 sets of lips, so they can carry something in their mouth with their teeth and still keep from swallowing water. Many people believe that the flat tail of the beaver is used for pushing them, propelling them through the water. Actually, the tail is more used as a rudder, as a steering mechanism, than as an actual propulsion tool.
But even the beaver's no match for the ultimate builder on the planet. We've seen the 9 contenders. They're the best of the best. Only one animal is a more extreme building machine. It's number 1, and it's coming up next on the most extreme. To find the most extreme buildings, you just have to travel to any big city on the planet. We like to build skyscrapers, enormous monuments to our power and wealth. But there is one creature that builds on an even bigger scale. It's easy to be impressed by the Empire State Building and its 102 floors. But imagine if the number 1 animal in the countdown was the same size as a human. Scaled up to our size, they'd make a skyscraper 4 times the size of the Empire State Building. But the building would be empty because these builders live in the basement. All 5 million of them. The Empire State Building of the Animal Kingdom is found on the plains of Africa. Standing 6 meters tall, this mighty tower is home to the number 1 builder in the countdown. It's just that they're all busy down in the basement. The most extreme builders on the planet are termites. What they lack in size, they make up for in sheer numbers. The enormous queen can give birth every 15 seconds, so there's no shortage of workers to help construct their massive home. And they need all the help they can get, because for termites, building is a very messy business. That's because the entire termite tower is made from a mixture of saliva, dirt, and dung. And they have to mix it all together in their mouths. It may not be pretty, but this plaster sets like concrete and can be molded into extraordinary design features like air conditioning systems, covered walkways, and gardens. But there's not a single window, for termites are blind. In Egypt, there are also huge windowless buildings. But at least the workers who made the pyramids didn't have to chew mouthfuls of dirt and dung. Instead, they invented the first form of concrete, which has survived for more than 4,000 years. It took only 30 years to build the Great Pyramid, yet it remained the tallest building on Earth until 1889. It's hard to imagine that a building that towers over the Statue of Liberty could be made from blocks of solid stone. The blocks weigh about 2 tons, and there are more than 2.5 million in the pyramid. With our modern building techniques, that's enough stone to make more than 40 Empire State Buildings. Termites may not build out of solid stone, But their constructions are just as impressive. For even though it's held together by nothing more than spit and excrement, the termite mound can endure for more than 100 years. So it's no wonder that when it comes to building, termites really are the most extreme.